Hello guys, welcome back to US Healthcare Academy. Today's video is the continuation of the videos on electronic data interchange. In our last video, we saw how an 837 file is structured and we went through ISA, GS and ST segments. Today, we are going to jump into loop 1000A and loop 1000B, which contains the information about the submitter and receiver of the EDI file. So let's jump into it. So guys, loop 1000A contains segment NM1, and segment NM1 contains information like the submitters or the entity's name, their unique identifier, etc. So let's look at each and every element of the NM1 segment in loop 1000A and what information it contains. So the first element, which is the NM101. So the first element of the NM1 segment is entity identifier code. Now, what is an entity identifier code? So guys, remember, there are a lot of NM1 segments. So basically, if you see the structure of the EDI file, there are entities like submitter, receiver, billing provider, subscriber, payer, patient, referring provider, rendering provider, service facility location, supervising provider, and all of these are called entities. And there is a code which represents these entities, and that is called as an entity identifier code. So basically, code 41 is for submitter. In similar way, code 40 is assigned to the receiver, and you know 85 is for billing provider, and so on. So each and every entity has an entity identifier code. So basically, if you look at any NM1 segment, and if you look at the first element of that NM1 segment, and if you see a code there, you can identify with the help of that code that what entity this NM1 segment belongs to. So in this case, this NM1 segment is for the submitter. Submitter is nothing but the one who is submitting this EDI file, who produces this EDI file and submits it. So hope the entity identifier code is clear to you. Let's look at the second element. Second element is the entity type qualifier. So entity type qualifier has two values. One is 2 for non-person and 1 for person. So basically, the entity type qualifier tells us that this ABC submitter is a person or is an organization. Segment NM1 element 03. So the third position in the NM1 segment contains the submitter name or the organization name. And guys, has some logic and is dependent on another element. So example, in this case, submitter name or the organization name. So because this entity is a non-person, and that's the reason this entity will only have one full name, that is the organization name, like example St. Mary's Hospital, Dr. J. Chaudhary's Clinic, something like that. But it won't have a first name because remember, organization and institutions, they don't have a first name. But if this was 1 here, the entity type qualifier was 1, which means person, then it would have a last name here, and then it would have a first name. It also may have prefix or suffix if applicable. But in this case, because this is a non-person, that information is not applicable. Now let's move to NM108 because all this information doesn't apply. So we are jumping to NM1 8th element. 8th element is the identification code qualifier. So what is the identification code qualifier? Which means that this is the submitter identifier NM109, which is this. Okay, so this is a unique number that identifies the submitter. But what is that unique number? Is it NPI? Is it tax identification number? Is it employer tax identification number? What is this number? So this eighth element here tells us about the ninth element, that what exactly that number is. So in this case, it is 46, and 46 means ETIN, employer tax identification number. So hope this concept is clear. If it was NPI, then there would be another identifier here. If it is social security number, there would be another identifier here. So each and every code also has a qualifier, also has an identifier. So hope loop 1000A is clear to you. Now loop 1000A segment PER. Sorry. So segment PER contains the contact information of the submitter. So if anybody from the receiver side of this EDI file wants to contact somebody at the submitter's end, then this is the person that they will get in touch with if there are any issues, or for any matter they want to contact the submitter, then this is the person they will contact. So let's jump into this PER segment and look into it. So PER segment first element has the value IC, and this is nothing but, again, this is the contact function code. So IC means information contact. Submitter contact name. So self-explanatory. What is the name of the contact person at the submitter's end? In this case, it's John Smith. So PER segment element number 3 is the communication number qualifier. Now what is the communication number qualifier? In this case, this is TE. Now what is TE? Let's look into this chart. So TE is for telephone number. So in the same way, EX is for the telephone extension. So if you see, here is TE, and after TE we have the telephone number, again the EX qualifier, and the extension number. So in this case, it can be FX as well, which is fax number. It can be email, which is the email address. So remember guys, this PER segment can repeat 2 times, and it can have telephone number, and in the second PER segment it can have the fax number, in the third it can have the email address. So that's about the PER segment. Now let's go to loop 1000B. Loop 1000B is same as loop 1000A, only the difference is that in loop 1000B it is the receiver's information. So whoever is the receiver of this EDI file. And if you see, again, the NM101 is the entity identifier code, and in this case it is 40 for receiver. Again, entity type qualifier, which is the second element of the NM1 segment, and 2 is for non-person, 1 is for person. And also the first name, middle name, prefix and suffix doesn't apply in this case, and that's the reason we have skipped that. But if you see the eighth element, I'm sorry, it has to be here. Yeah, so if you see the eighth element, it is the identification code qualifier, and even in this case it is 46, which is for ETIN, that is employer's tax identification number. So guys, that is about loop 1000A and loop 1000B. So guys, hope you're clear about loop 1000A and loop 1000B and the NM1 segment and the PR segment. In our upcoming videos, I'll take you through each and every loop. There will be one video per loop, and I'll explain you all the segments and all the elements in those segments, and we're going to go through details of everything. So guys, stay tuned for our next video. Until then, take care. Bye bye.